the visual language is given as much importance as the actual languages, so you get both of them at the same time. It's not that common with every director. I feel like a lot of movies are just podcasts with some background.
And that's what Marvel feels like to me. It's just like, oh, okay, bash someone's head in with a hammer, deliver one liner about wanting to fuck something, and done. Where's my 50 million, $100 million, whatever.
The idea is that, okay, would you work for someone who's one of the greats, right? But you would have to basically just devote your life to it.
Give up your life
It's
to
not
that.
just give
Yeah.
up, it's like devoting your life to doing one thing.
Oh my god, I feel like Miyazaki would come out of his grave and haunt people if there was a Wind Rises battle simulator. Oh my god. I agree with them because, war is bad. I don't feel like that's a controversial stance.
It is, dude. Go to Twitter. What is bad is controversial as
Yeah,
fuck.
Dude, fuck it, on Twitter. Dude, on Twitter, everything is controversial. You could be like, gravity is real. That's controversial. I feel like putting shit on, taking Twitter with a huge grain of salt.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Escape into Reality. I'm joined today by Soham.
Hello.
And Natalia.
Hi.
Today we are talking about a documentary called Kingdom of Dreams and Madness. It's about Studio Ghibli, an animation studio coming out from Japan, and it's three heads, Hayao Miyazaki, Suzuki, and Takahata. Concentrates mostly on Hayao Miyazaki and covers a period of time when he was directing the film The Wind Rises, and they show how he made the film and the studio working processes behind it. That's what we're going to discuss today. Okay, so we're going to start with each giving a reason why you should watch the documentary. For that, let's start with Soham first.
If you enjoyed watching something like The Office and you want to witness more of like a workplace dynamic, it's a good watch. Apart from the whole animation thing. I was hoping you would ask me after Natalia because I thought she'd talk about the animation in Studio Ghibli. Because I don't have anything to say about the anime. As soon as he said, "Well, let's hear from Soham first," I was like, "Oh shit!"
All right.
We can.
No.
I think
keep this in, bro.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. As Soham has requested, Natalia, can you go next?
Sure. So I think it's a really good documentary because it's a really thorough and deep look into the animation process. And obviously, the documentary focuses on one movie to follow along with, which I really like. I'm glad it's not like a broader overview into how Studio Ghibli works, but it really follows Miyazaki in particular. Especially if you're a fan of his movies, I think it's really worth the watch just to see how he does what he does and how he manages to have so many people follow him, because I think they mentioned this in the documentary, it's a pretty big studio. It has two directors, but they have 400 employees.
Yeah, it is a very big studio. Soham wants to respond to that.
Yeah, it's like an interesting workplace to witness because it's very different from what a workplace we would sort of be used to, where we don't really have that much respect for people above us. So this is like one where you can see that the people working there have a lot of respect for their boss, even though they know he's making them work very hard. But it's very interesting to see that relationship.
Yeah, that's true. For me, the reason you want to watch this documentary is because Miyazaki is very much one of the greatest of all times. Not just in animation, but filmmaking in general. I would put him up there with the likes of Godard and Truffaut and Kurosawa and Kiarostami and all of that. So I think he is one of the greatest film directors of all time, and watching his work process and his attitude towards his craft is quite inspiring, honestly. So I think if you want to witness greatness, this is how greatness is built. That's why you should watch this. We'll start with Natalia giving us a very short summary of the documentary.
Okay, sure. So the documentary is, I guess, a very close look at Miyazaki's working process, and it follows how he envisioned and then animated The Wind Rises, which is meant to be his quote unquote last movie before he comes out of retirement to then make The Boy and the Heron and so on. And yeah, so the documentary just follows his working process. It goes into his views on life and on cinema, on animation, and on his relationship with his dad and how he unpacks his relationship with his dad through the movie, along with showing us how the movie is made, produced, distributed, and marketed to worldwide audiences.
Thanks for that, Natalia. All right, let's move on. First, before we dive into the documentary, I just wanted to ask you guys which Studio Ghibli film is your favorite film. Let's start with Natalia, because I know Soham's answer.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. My favorite Ghibli movie. I mean, I flip flopped on a lot of like on what my favorite was because I've seen so many of them and I love like a lot of them. But I think my favorite would be Howl's Moving Castle. So until very recently, it was Nausicaa, and then I just like scrolled through like a list of Miyazaki movies, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, I completely forgot about Howl's Moving Castle, and I forgot about like Ponyo and everything. I want to say it's Howl's Moving Castle one because I really like the visuals in Howl's Moving Castle. It's one of his later movies, so it's so bright and it's so colorful and it's so vivid, and I love like how the castle is animated, and I also love the characters. Like I love how dramatic Howl is, because this is something we'll talk about like later as well, about how he envisions the movie and like how he plans the movie out. And I think knowing how he like visualizes the movie before he comes up with like a script of sorts. Like I really like Howl's Moving Castle because of how interesting the characters are and like how memorable the characters are. And I think it's also reflects his politics really well. I think it's a really good example of like his anti-war politics being framed in like a kids movie.
Give me your top three.
Okay, I think my top three would be number one, Howl's Moving Castle. Number two, Spirited Away. Number three, My Neighbor Totoro.
Fair enough. That's a respectable list.
Thanks.
I think it also goes into like the core of Miyazaki's work as well, because that's like those three are when he like I think they are like standouts. That's when he became popular. I'm just gonna tell you guys my top three. My favorite one is The Wind Rises, which is the film he was directing while this documentary was shot. So it's actually quite interesting to watch. Second would probably be Spirited Away. I think it's just a classic. Everybody should watch it. And people who haven't seen it, even though they've been told to see it, are dumb people. Just saying. And then the third one, probably Porco Rosso. I just like the film. It's fun. It's not very deep. It's not like the others, but it's a fun little film. The animation in it and the characters in it are very vibrant. What about you, Soham? What's your favorite Studio Ghibli film?
Well, first of all, are we calling it Studio Ghibli or is it Studio Ghibli? Because I honestly don't know.
They say Studio Ghibli in the doc, so I feel like
Oh, really?
Oh, okay. Even Google says Ghibli.
Because that one video that you sent of the typical person like me who hasn't seen Studio Ghibli, that had like a reference to why do you even know that it's pronounced like that if you haven't seen a single film?
yeah, so exactly.
So like that's how I knew about it. So I thought you would be calling it Ghibli, and I was just like,
No,
what?
bro, look at
Okay.
us. Look at us. We've watched like every single movie they've made and we call it Studio Ghibli, and here you are correcting us on how the fucking studio is pronounced.
Apparently, there's a big debate online as well about this.
But like they call it Ghibli, no? Like Suzuki and Takahata and all.
They call it Ghibli, but apparently in Japanese it's supposed to be pronounced Ghibli, but they call it Ghibli.
I see
and
this is a
it's
GIF debate.
pronoun, so.
Oh my god. Why is it always with the G's?
It
though,
is very
man?
similar, right?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
Such a fickle letter.
Anyway, Soham, what's your favorite one?
Yeah, I guess if I had to list a favorite one, it's probably Spirited Away because I held on to it for so long. I didn't watch it, but I think it's my favorite in terms of I've it's been on my list for the longest. I think the first one I will see is going to be House. I don't know what to say in this segment. Can we just move on to why I won't watch it?
I love that your favorite is one that's just been on your watch list the longest, bro.
Cool, come, let's move on to our next topic, which is Soham, why the fuck won't you watch Studio Ghibli films? Even though you've been told to watch it so many times.
I mean, the easy and like stupid answer is that I'm just keeping it for later. That someday when I'm really feeling in the mood for it, I can just sit down and go through all of it, and like I can pretty much like just be obsessed with the whole thing at that point. But I think I realized that one other reason could be that most of the films from Studio Ghibli, whatever you want to say, that are on my list are films that they're very popular, like even outside of the whole animated film genre. I feel like they're very popular. And so I have a lot of hope for, like, I have a lot of friends who do watch animated, not just films, but even just anime in general or stuff like Rick and Morty, which comes under animated cartoons, but they're not really for kids, like South Park, Archer, Family Guy, stuff like that. So I have a lot of hope for, when you sit down to watch a movie with friends, one of them at some point will just say, let's watch House maybe, or Spirited Away. Spirited Away probably not because it's maybe a little sadder. But I think I'm just keeping it for then, like it would be a nice first hand experience for me to watch it with people who've already enjoyed. Or maybe I have some young nephews, maybe I'll watch it with them. I have an older brother, he's, I don't know, maybe gonna have a kid at some point.
I think that's dumb.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you can definitely watch Ghibli movies by yourself and just enjoy the experience and watch Howl's Moving Castle, bro. That'll be so nice. Or even like Spirited Away. It's such a visual experience, might as well, right?
I get the idea that you want to watch it with someone else. I think you should just watch one of them so that at least you know if it's for you or not. Yeah, imagine like you're sitting there, like 10 years from now, you're sitting there, and then you're like, oh, cool, now finally it's time to open up this bottle of champagne that I've been saving up for like 30 years. And you open it, and it's just crap. Imagine that. That's worse than just watching one.
That's a good analogy because I don't like champagne. Like I tried champagne
Yeah.
and it was not good.
Yeah, exactly.
But I've seen little bits of Miyazaki's. Like I've seen clips from Spirited Away. I've seen clips from Totoro, I think. Like a lot of the food related
Yeah.
animation. I don't know. I think I was just like pushed a YouTube shot at one point. It was just like a bunch of food related stuff
Bro.
from different
Yeah.
films, like different Ghibli films.
And
So
it
it's,
looks
I mean, I
so good.
sort of know what to expect, and it's like I already have respect for it. I already like it. Like I like the style and all from what little I've seen.
How can you have respect for something you have not seen, bro? I think you should consider watching like one of them, which is not one of those like watch Porco Rosso. That's like very low stakes.
I haven't seen Porco Rosso, so I can't comment on that.
Yeah, it's not even in the top like 10 of most people's lists. So if you watch that, you get the idea, but it's not like a very typical Ghibli movie, I guess.
What if I watch the worst one?
What is the worst one? What would you call the worst one? I don't know.
I was looking at the list today, and according to Rotten Tomatoes, the second last is 78%, and the last film on the list is 38% on Rotten Tomatoes.
What is the last film on the list?
That's gonna be Tales of the Earth Sea,
Yeah,
right?
it's
'Cause that's yeah,
his son's debut.
yeah, that's not good.
I know, but I mean, we are talking about Studio Ghibli. We're not talking about Miyazaki right now.
No, we are talking about Miyazaki.
Okay, fine.
No, we're talking about Miyazaki. We're talking about Hayao Miyazaki. Because no, if this was Studio Ghibli, then I would have recommended you watch like Pompoko, which is
Yeah, Pompoko is so good.
Takahata's
Dude.
movie. Pompoko's so good. Fuck, I love
Pompoko is
Pompoko so much.
nice.
Shatru recommended. I love it. What a movie, bro. Last year, it was like the second best movie I watched. And we watched a lot of movies last year.
Yeah, I think Pompoko is a good introduction because it's
Pampa's
not
so good.
Miyazaki, so you end up saving Miyazaki, but it's a very Studio Ghibli film.
It's also pretty old.
It's also very old, yeah. It's a little longer than it needs to be, but it's pretty good. All right, getting back to the thing. So Soham is probably gonna end up watching Studio Ghibli sooner than later, which is a win. We won today. Soham
I
lost.
don't think you won till I actually watch it, right?
That's true.
Yeah, no, that's true. It's okay. I have faith in you, Soham.
Wait, do you have faith in me winning or do you have faith in me
I have
losing?
faith in you losing and just watching a
Oh,
really good
okay.
fucking
That
movie.
doesn't, then that's not faith
I
in
have
me,
faith
dude.
in
That's
you.
faith in
No, I
yourself.
have faith in you watching an incredible movie and like opening your eyes to some good shit, you know?
Sounds like you're trying to sell me into a cult, bro.
Bro, it's good. It's so good. It's so good. Like I don't understand.
I
I
mean, this
don't
conversation is being
understand.
recorded. You can listen to yourself. It sounds like you're trying to sell me into a cult.
But it's such a like I mean I it's not a cult if it's like an incredible movie that you are depriving yourself of, you know? Like I'm not trying to sell you fucking
I'm sure the
Herbalife or
Kool-Aid
whatever.
tastes good, bro. I'm not doubting the taste of the Kool-Aid.
Oh my god.
So we have faith in you being a reasonable human being as well, you know.
It's fine. Let's just move on.
Cool. Moving on. Next, we were going to talk about the studio's working processes. I guess that's like the main topic of this documentary is how these films are made. And one of the notable things about the documentary is the amount of responsibility these people take in their own craft, like the seriousness they treat their work with, which is very rare to see in India, but like it's a very common thing in Japan. But like it feels like it's 10x in the studio itself, where everybody's just like working all the time and they're like very serious about the work they're doing. So I just wanted to know your guys' thoughts on that. Let's start with Soham.
Yeah, I mean, watching this documentary and seeing all the tidbits where they're actually showing just the workplace or interviews with people who, like, they're not even significant enough for them to tell us what their names are. But a lot of the people who they just get sound bites from, they're just employees, and like you realize that this is someone's workplace. Like, even though it's a very famous studio and all that, it is someone's workplace. And the ask from Miyazaki himself or the producer, just what is required to be a contributing member of this workspace, I think is quite high. And it's a little interesting to see a workplace where like the people at the top are being very openly respected. Like, in when I was working in an office, that was one of the best things of the day, where you're just like talking shit about the boss with the other employees. And it's so weird to see that here, even when the boss is not around, they're like really talking about him with such I mean, obviously the camera's on them and all that, but it's still like you can tell that they do have respect for him. They might not, at all points, they might not be very happy with how much he's making them work, but they do definitely have respect for him. I don't think they would have chosen to work there if not.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think there's like a lot of respect around him and his work processes as well. I mean, he is one of the most respected directors outside of the studio as well. So you would expect that to a certain degree at least. The jobs there are also very competitive, right? Like they got to be competitive. Everybody wants to work there. Natalia, what do you think?
I wanted to, I guess, add to Soham's point of like how interesting it is to see every employee respect their boss. Because I've also worked in places where I did not respect my boss. And it's a real drag. And I think it's really nice to see how each employee finds fulfillment in a way, and how, like, I mean, some employees are stressed like with work because he has such high exacting standards, and some employees really enjoy it because I think at the beginning of the documentary there are like, I think one woman says it doesn't feel like work, it feels like I'm at school, because she has so much fun with it. And like for her it's not like a quote unquote menial job, right? Like it's an activity that she very much enjoys. And that's the tone they start off with. The documentary starts off with really happy employees and like it's a really fun place to work and they make beautiful drawings and they make beautiful animation and stuff. And then the tone shifts in the documentary where they also talk about how hard it is to like reach that the level that Miyazaki demands. And one of the employees, she just seemed kind of burnt out. He demands like perfection, and you have to be okay with giving up your life to fulfill his vision. And if you want to do something with your life, like you might not want to work here because you just will not have the time for it. And I think that was really interesting. Do other employees also have the same kind of, maybe not the same vision, but like dreams of their own that they've, chosen to give up to fulfill Miyazaki's vision? Probably. Like I love how dedicated everyone is, and I think Studio Ghibli would not be able to make the movies that it makes without having such a dedicated workforce. But on the other hand, it was really, I guess I am curious to know if people who work there feel like they've had to give up a part of themselves to to do this, to like be where they are. I guess I'm saying this because I've worked in places where like the work isn't demanding, so I can have like my own creative passions, like this podcast, right? I'm not giving up like my creativity for the job.
Yeah, just for more context, there was a scene where they showed this poster which had like rules for the office, and I found this translation for all the rules. The top of the poster it says conditions for employees we want to leave. Number one is employees who do not think independently. Number two, employees who cannot do anything unless they are told. Employees who quickly rely on others for help. Employees who are quick to shift the blame. Employees who are not motivated. Employees who always complain. And employees who are frequently absent or late. So it is very much a strict workplace that demands all or nothing from you. Like you are all in or you're not in. It's very simple in that sense.
Are you reading this on Reddit?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I also found that, and I was just looking at what like the other people had to say about this, like in response to this. And some people pointed out that the fact that it's in the negative form, like it's about
Yeah.
conditions for employees we want to leave, not conditions for
Employees we want.
employees we want to stay, or like, the kind of employees that we want to have here. Some people pointed out that that shows a little bit of a negative
Yeah, I
opinion.
think one of the reasons for it, which they mention in the documentary as well, is like there's a scene where Miyazaki mentions the reason we are making a studio is not to make money, it's to make great films, and that's the only reason we are making the studio. The company structure is just to handle the money, but the point of the studio is to make good films. And the second we are not making that and we are not doing that, I will leave. And at the end, he says, "By the when I will leave, the studio will collapse." Like he says that at the end of the documentary, because I think the entire thing is designed around his vision and like his want to do make great films, and maybe someone else has that same desire and passion to make great films like him, but he does think that like that level of authoritarian disciplinary structure that he's made in his studio will kind of collapse after he leaves.
Yeah, because the studio is what built around Miyazaki, Suzuki, and Takahata. Takahata has passed away. Miyazaki's 82. you know
I think a big role of why it becomes successful, like this whole strict rules and stuff, is probably because there is a figure like Miyazaki who employees can respect, right? Like if there was no Miyazaki in Studio Ghibli, the justification is not there. Like, okay, why am I putting so much of my life into this if I'm not contributing to something that is actually going to end up being spoken about by like three random people 10 years from now?
Yeah, that's true. I think it all stems from the desire to like make great films as like the central thesis of their entire studio. And I think that reflects in what was our next subtopic about this, is like how even when it comes to the work Suzuki does, which is production and distribution, he is very much concentrated on building human relationships with other people. Like there's a scene where a lot of early career employees from a big distribution network or TV network have come to hear a talk from Suzuki, and Suzuki tells them that, oh, a lot of times we will not work with the biggest distributor, but we'll work with people we know. And that's how they ended up building long-term relationships, and that's why a lot of the studios survived, because they want to work with people who will respect their mission, and the mission is to make good films.
It was interesting to see Suzuki do a lot of the legwork around like promoting the movie, and I think it's really impressive to see how involved he is in like the everyday process as well, because like he does work very closely with Miyazaki through like the initial storyboarding process as well, and he has like not input, but like he shares his thoughts with Miyazaki, and I think he also has like
That's his role, though. Like, I feel like a producer he just has to be all over the place. Like, you can't pigeonhole yourself in like one department. You got to be everywhere.
yeah, but because he manages to do this for like Takahata and for Miyazaki, and I guess it's just like really impressive, like for such a like world renowned studio to have one producer just juggling like two like juggernauts in the animation world and somehow producing two movies at the same time. Because for context, while The Wind Rises was being made, Takahata was making his last movie as well, which is The Tale of Princess Kaguya, and they were making a documentary on The Tale of Princess Kaguya as well. So the studio was making two movies and recording two documentaries at the same time. And like at the heart of it is just Suzuki trying to fucking keep everything together.
But he wasn't, Suzuki wasn't the producer for
Wasn't he?
Takahata's film. That other guy was.
Oh
No, no, no.
yeah.
There
What
was
was
this
his
other guy,
name?
right? You
Yeah,
I
remember?
remember his
Yeah.
face, but I can't
he
remember
had a
his
second
name.
guy.
Yeah. I wonder if
Yoshiaki Nishimura.
I wonder if Suzuki is also like setting it up for someone else to like come in and take the reins.
I mean, this other guy, Takahata's producer, was like, he did look younger. He was probably going to be.
He was a lot younger as well.
Yeah, no, he was younger. Yeah.
Last thing I kind of wanted to discuss here was the animation and the quality of the animation. All of their animation is still hand drawn. They do it on actual physical paper, and they have like a shit ton of pencils around them. It's kind of nostalgic to look at it. Do you guys have any opinions on that? Like, do you think hand animation is better? Any opinions around that?
I don't know if I would say like better, because there's some like absolutely fantastic computer animations. I don't fucking know, digital animations, I don't know what you call it. Digital animation, like there's some like absolutely incredible examples of digital animation, the Spider-Verse movies. Fantastic digital animation, right? So I wouldn't say it's better, but it is like beautiful in its own way. Like it does fit like a very pleasing aesthetic, and it is like visually very, very stunning. But I don't know if I would call it like the best form of animation. I think animation is too broad to like pit one against the other.
From our discussion about the piano player documentary, like with that documentary where we spoke about how it being animated will make it sort of stand out in the whole documentary genre itself. I feel like when it comes to hand drawn animation, just knowing that this is hand drawn, that the industry standard, or just it would be so much easier to do this using computers, and these people are still choosing to do it with like a legacy method. I think that adds to the audience's appreciation of it. Like the fact that they are getting a product that is actually difficult to make, even though most of the industry has pivoted to using tools to help them. I think that as a viewer, you just tend to like appreciate it a bit more, like, some person. And now after seeing the documentary, seeing him just like, so I have some experience with like computer animation. I learned uh, Flash when I was in school. Like I did a extracurricular course,
Same.
and literally, yeah, like the onion layer thing where you switch, go to the next layer, come back, and you figure out where you want this particular line to be so that it looks like it's in motion in the next frame. To watch Miyazaki do that manually, like lift up 2-3 pages, see where the line is, then put it down and make a line on the page that he's currently working on. As a viewer, when I do watch a Studio Ghibli film, that will also be like a huge part of appreciating the film, that there's a bit of defamiliarization, right, with animation, that it's been put through in a computer and whatnot, but then to have it hand drawn, maybe it lessens that defamiliarization.
I think it kind of increases the intentionality of every frame. You know how, like, if you write on paper versus if you write digitally, I feel like when I write on paper, just because it's harder to write on paper, I sort of write every word with more intention. I don't want to make mistakes because I can't just like, I don't want to go back and delete and cut and
Yeah,
chop and stuff like that. Right.
you
So
can't either.
you can't either.
You have
Right.
to start over on a new paper. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't want to do that. There's like intentionality beforehand before putting stuff down. I think you get that with hand drawn more than you did with digital, because a lot of digital is like, let me throw like 10 different things and see which one actually is better, and then we'll go with that one. Versus hand drawn, you have to decide beforehand because it's a lot of effort to make it. And if you end up scrapping it, it's going to be a lot of time and effort wasted. So that's one thing about hand drawn animation, that's like, I think it gives a lot of intentionality to the whole process. And I think it's just Studio Ghibli in general puts a lot of effort on its animation. Like, I think that's like one of the biggest standouts about it, where even the background characters, the grass, the wind, it's lively. It's not, if you watch like regular anime, a lot of it is usually dead. The background is
Yeah.
very dead. I don't know. A lot of animation is about taking shortcuts, right? Like, how can I do the least amount of effort, give it an illusion of it moving? But with the work Studio Ghibli does, it's not about that kind of efficiency. It's about just like, what can I do to make it most alive? Yeah. So, how what do you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought up a really good point, because that's also one thing I noticed, like watching the inner working of studio like Ghibli and comparing that with. So I'm a big fan of the adult animated cartoon series like Family Guy, South Park, Archer, stuff like that, and they all have a unique workflow. Series like Family Guy, what they do is they plan an entire season ahead of time, and work on an episode starts a year before the episode actually airs. So people are simultaneously working on, let's say, 20 episodes a season. All those 20 episodes are being worked on simultaneously for an entire year before they are finished. And like it's not because the animation is so complex. They have like a whole writing and all. Like that's probably why it takes a year. Like that's unique to Family Guy, where as opposed to that, South Park does an episode in a week. Like they start writing an episode on Monday, and by Sunday they have a ready to air episode. So it's a completely different sort of workflow. And then to have studio where it starts with a storyboard and then it develops, like it's not even written first in textual format, like it starts as a storyboard. Yeah, I think you're right. Like a lot of animation does try to cut corners in their visual aspect. Like South Park was more always about the writing and the jokes. It's not like they have those Joker looking animations almost, where like old South Park looks so janky. You couldn't be watching it for the visual effect. You're watching it for the humor. I think the effort they put in Studio Ghibli, that is, they put into those visuals, it's probably one of the main reasons why audience can also, yeah, just appreciate it so much more.
I guess that also like feeds into his working process. Like I think in the documentary when he talks about how he storyboards essentially every single frame, and like he literally imagines what the frame looks like, and like how long each scene is going to last, and he times it, and then he maps it out in storyboard form. It was so interesting to see how he essentially just imagines the entire fucking movie and then adds a script to it. I was so fascinated by how visual first his working process is. I thought it would have at least been done concurrently, like he'd do visuals and along with that also think about like the script and stuff. But yeah, I feel like even when thinking about like Ghibli movies now, like what sticks in the mind is like how it looks. Like the dialogue is good, but I wouldn't call like the dialogue phenomenal. But what's phenomenal is like the story and the visuals of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's visual storytelling at its best, right? Like
Yeah.
a lot of, I mean, there was a point when he was talking about how like Japanese people bow at different degrees through the generations, and what was respectful before and what's respectful now. But that level of detail in motion you get when you watch a Studio Ghibli movie, and so much of the story is told through like the subtle gestures and subtle animations and stuff. Animation is not secondary to like the story itself, it's part of the story. It's also just insane. Like the workflow is very different from what a regular workflow around animation is, just because he thinks with the animation in mind throughout the whole process. Like the motion is as important. The visual language is given as much importance as the actual like languages, Japanese is. So you get like both of them at the same time. Which I don't know, like it's not that common with every director. I feel like a lot of movies are just podcasts with some background.
And that's what Marvel feels like to me. It's just like, oh, okay, bash someone's head in with a hammer, deliver one liner about wanting to fuck something, and done. Where's my 50 million, $100 million?
Also, like one last point I wanted to mention was that the fact that all of this is possible is because of the financial position Studio Ghibli is in. Like, they really don't care about timelines when they're working. Both of their films are late and over budget, and it's fine because they're Studio Ghibli and they make a lot of money. I mean, this was probably not true before, but like when this documentary is shot, at least by then they are very big established players, and the goal is now to just make the best film possible. And they have basically like an insane budget to do this. So they don't have to make very strict budgetary considerations. They don't have to make very strict time considerations, which means they don't need to cut corners. So the financial aspect is just as important as like the creative freedom.
I mean, I would like to just point out that this is probably because of Miyazaki's commitment to staying committed to making good films, right? Like, uh, I don't want to take his name, but like, there are examples of people who used to be like very anti, I don't want to make money. I just want to have a good conversation with my friends and put it out there. But then when you make your money, it's like, okay, now I don't really need to care so much about I'm already getting the money. I'm going to get my sponsors. Like you don't really, once you make it big, you don't, I guess, need to stay committed because you're going to have an audience regardless. Even if they don't like you, they're still going to hate watch you. Even if your quality drops down, the fans are still going to be there. So the fact that he's still committed to making good films is pretty admirable.
That's like a thing I've seen. This is just a process. A lot of people call it enshittification of life. What happens is you build a brand, you build a reputation by doing really good work. Then usually some fucking private equity firms buys you, and then they spend down that reputation, you know? They make bad stuff, but they use that brand name, they use that reputation, the trust they have built up, and they slowly use it and
They're trying to
churn
use it
out.
up, right? Like because the audience has so much good faith in them that they're like, okay, how can we turn this good faith into profit for us? Like we don't
Yeah,
care about the
yeah.
good faith anymore.
To a certain degree, that's what happened to Marvel, in my opinion, where they were actually making really good stuff initially, and then at some
Yeah, but
point,
they just like wrung out the
Yeah.
creativity, or like it doesn't matter
yeah,
anymore. They're just fucking coming into the theaters anyway.
yeah, exactly. That's what, like, then you're spending the reputation down. Like, you build the reputation up over time with a lot of effort. and then you spend the reputation down. That's like a lot of arc of a lot of studios. I don't think that's happening in Studio Ghibli because all the founders are still alive. But like imagine 20 years down the line, some big studio buys Studio Ghibli as a subsidiary, and then they just like it becomes a multimedia industry where there's like 1,000 Studio Ghibli games
Yeah.
coming out. There's mobile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a Wind Rises, Battle Simulator, all of that,
Oh my god, I feel like Miyazaki would come out of his grave and haunt people if there was a Wind Rises battle
Bro,
simulator.
if that was
Oh my
possible,
god.
fucking Tesla would have killed Musk himself by now. People can't come
Yeah, fair
back as
enough.
ghosts. That's why people can go on
Fair enough.
desecrating your name, making bombs instead of cars.
That's also like a very interesting thing of would whoever runs Studio Ghibli like after Miyazaki and Suzuki, I wonder if they would, I guess, like respect the origin of Studio Ghibli and like shut the studio down before considering selling it off, or if, like they might just choose to get that
I
bag
mean, dude,
and
it's interesting because it's also Japan, so they might actually just do that. There's like a
yeah.
30% chance that they like just be like, okay,
Just
cool,
close up shop.
yeah,
Yeah,
We had
exactly.
a
Just
good
like
run.
just
honor
We
the
want to
work.
end it over
Yeah.
here. Yeah. I
Yeah,
honestly think that would
yeah.
be
Which I
much more
very much respect.
Yeah, exactly. That would be much more
Yeah.
respectable than like fucking like when BoJack announced its ending. It was bittersweet, but it was still good to know that they are
It
ending
needed to
here.
be done, yeah.
It's not like fucking
Yeah.
Fast and Furious where it's like, oh, now this guy's kid is here. We're going into space to steal a rocket. I don't even know what the fuck is going on there. Like, bro, I was a kid and I was watching these films, and now a friend of mine actually has a kid, and it's still going
Damn!
on.
Multi-generational Fast and Furious.
Bro.
I know Studio Ghibli also handles like its own merch, and I think that's where they get
yeah.
like a very good amount of a huge chunk of their budget must just be from merch.
They also have a
I wonder
museum
if
that's really popular.
Museum, yeah.
yeah. I wonder if they
I think they
might
also
like
do
keep the brand alive.
theater, I think. Like they put up
They
productions.
do. There was like a Spirited Away
Yeah.
stage production.
I
There's a
think
My Neighbor
Nausicaa
Totoro stage
also.
production in London in the Barbican that's happening right now. I wonder, I don't know how heavy a hand Miyazaki has in things like this, in like adaptations of his work. Because I know, for example, like with One Piece, right? Like Oda has like he has a like a very large input in all of One Piece adaptations, which is why the One Piece adaptations are good because like the creator is
So
also
when you say
stepping in.
adaptations, you mean like the live action and
Yes,
like
I
the
mean the
movies and
live action.
stuff, or just the
Yeah,
Yeah.
anime?
yeah, but there's
No, I
also
mean the
like
live
a
action.
One Piece mobile game that's like absolute crap.
Oh yeah,
No,
what was it called? Battle
those
Bounty or
gacha
whatever.
games, dude. But that's just like a genre of
Yeah,
game where,
Yeah.
yeah, like they just get intellectual property right holders. I feel like they just get approached by some game studio, like, hey man, we can pound this out in like 2 months.
Yeah.
yeah.
It'll just cost you this much, and even if it does not make you like a lot of money, it'll just be like an constant little stream of
Yeah,
revenue. Like it'll just keep going, bro.
that's
It's
true.
like I feel like they just get coerced into thinking that okay, it's just going to be like one of those small things that's going to keep generating money over time. So
It's
why
also
not?
gacha games in Japan. Like they invented it. Like, it's really
Yeah.
popular there. It's nice.
For example, yeah, like with the One Piece live action adaptation, Oda had like did have like his own input into it. So I wonder if Miyazaki also has inputs into adaptations. I don't think so because they don't really bring that up in the documentary at all about like him revisiting like his old work with like playwrights who want to adapt his shit. I feel like that's handled by someone
Yeah,
else.
I feel like he
Yeah.
doesn't. I think he just wants to make films, dude. Like,
Yeah. I don't think he concerns himself with
Yeah, I think he's
anything
more of
else.
an animator.
Yeah. Which like fair
Once
enough.
it's done, it's
Yeah.
probably done in
Yeah,
his
yeah,
head,
yeah.
right? Like I'm done with my part of this. I think the question was about Isao Takahata's contribution to the success of Ghibli. And I think Suzuki was the one who said that, it might be Miyazaki's films, but Takahata has played his role in finding new talent as well. And let's not forget that technically he also found Miyazaki. Like Miyazaki was his sort of protege,
Mentee.
sort of. Yeah, like I don't think they were actually a protege relationship, but they did work together. I think he was working in his team at what is it, Toei Animation.
Toei Animation. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Takahata has played that role of expanding the team with more talented people. So maybe what we were discussing earlier, like what's going to happen to Ghibli in the future, maybe these people that Takahata and maybe Suzuki himself, the other talent that they've acquired, maybe the next Miyazaki is one of them, like imagine if you are also like the reason Miyazaki probably left to do his own thing by himself was because he didn't feel that he had the freedom to do it while he was working for like a network. And if someone like him is already working at Ghibli where he's being fostered, like his creativity has a place to go, probably doesn't need to split off and make his own studio, right? Like he can just continue to work under Ghibli.
That's true, but you would expect someone like that to have already directed one film. I think they tried that with Goro and it's not worked out.
Goro, I wouldn't consider like a good case study because there were like other reasons.
Because that's just his son. That's not like encouraging talent, right?
So in the doc, one name that he did mention as like having scouted the talent was I think the music director for most of the films, Isahashi. Yeah, Joe Hisaishi.
I love his first name is Joe.
It's probably Joe or something, it's probably not pronounced.
Is it just
Joe.
Joe?
It's written Joe. Like I'm on Wikipedia
Bro, that's
right now.
Joe.
Bro, but it's a
Yeah.
Japanese is a phonetic language also, so
No, I mean
it's
it might just be Joe.
Joey.
Like they might have also just given him like a white name,
Oh man, Joseph Hisaishi.
Joseph. Yeah, no, so that's Joe. Yeah.
No. That was just me saying that. That's not his real name.
Oh, okay. Cool. Fine.
All right. Come. So, having talked about all of this, if given an opportunity, would you want to work at Studio Ghibli?
Yeah. I don't know. I think
It will require working from like 9 to 7 basically every day and having no life apart from the work.
yeah, I guess the implication is would you want to give up like your own creative dreams and stuff for Ghibli?
I don't think that is the implication. Like your creative dreams can be lived
Yeah, that's
through
true. Yeah.
your work at Studio Ghibli, right? But it's like when I look at this question, it's more about would you want to commit your life to your work? Like not work as in like a job or like a facet of making more money, but like your actual
Yeah.
labor. Like okay, I draw and I want to draw so much and so well that it's being celebrated and all, but I will like focus my whole life on just this thing, like this one thing that I do. I don't want to like be healthy. I don't want to volunteer on weekends or something. Like, I don't want to do anything else.
I feel like I would do it if I was into animation as much as these people are.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I guess the prerequisite is like you also have like the skills and stuff because like I can't draw for shit, right? So I wouldn't be
I mean,
able to
it could
do it,
also be
but
a different kind of role, right?
I
Like you could be a producer, but even a producer, like he is asking a lot of everyone that works for him. It's not just if you're a artist. Yeah.
it's not just the animators. Yeah, it's like every single employee. I don't know. I think it would give life like a set purpose, which is like really hard to find otherwise, especially if you're able to like derive a lot of meaning from that. I think that way it would be really satisfying to know that you are working towards like this very singular goal of making great art. I feel like I would try and do it for like 5 or 6 years. I don't know if I would be able to do it for like the rest of my working life. but I would definitely want to experience working in a place like that and like contributing like all of my hours into something that I know will be great. I guess, yeah, but I think it's one of those things of if you're working for like Hayao Miyazaki, for like someone who's such a perfectionist, who's so like if it like his single goal is to make a like a great film, which means if he like if it's not a great film, he would probably scrap it, you know?
Dude, I
Yeah.
think it would be a great film. Like, anything he's making is gonna be good. You're almost guaranteed that. It might not
Exactly.
be, but like there's like
Yeah, yeah,
a
yeah.
1 to 3% chance, maybe. The idea is
Yeah.
that okay, yeah, would you work for someone who's one of the greats, right?
Hmm.
But like you would have to basically just devote your life to it.
Give up your
Like
life
it's
to
not
that.
just give up;
Yeah.
it's like devoting your
Yeah,
life to
yeah,
doing
yeah.
one thing. And can you devote your life to doing one thing is the question. I don't I am fundamentally not like that, so I don't think I would be
Not that
able
I
to.
don't want to, but I don't think I could. Like, that's just being honest. I don't think I could.
Same, exactly. I'm not capable of that
Yeah, like I'm
much,
not
like
capable. It's not even
doing one thing
whether I want
forever.
to or not. I'm just not capable.
So moving on to our last topic, we're going to talk about Miyazaki's own working process and his politics. First, I just want to talk about his work ethic a little bit before we move on to talking about his work, which is just a guy shows up in the office at 11, leaves at 7, same routine every single day. In his free time, he's cleaning the river. Yeah, like exactly same structured routine. He's probably doing that for like the last 30 years. Is quite, I don't know. I don't know how people do this. I don't know how people do the same routines every single day. Do any of you guys
I
know?
feel like after a certain point, like you're the unexpectedness out of life, like at least in a good way, is sort of taken away. Like college years, I could at any point like get a call from you or somewhere else, and it's like, okay, we are doing this now. You want to come do this with us? And it's like, okay, whatever I had planned for right now is now going to be either like I either have to make a choice to hang out with my friends or stay committed to whatever I was going to do, and then like have that feeling of missing out. So maybe as you get older, like I do believe as you get older, it's easier to stick to a routine because yeah, like you're kind of left alone a little bit more as you get older, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Like the first time I saw
Yeah.
my brother
Yeah.
really like get into a routine, I was really shocked. Like, okay, this is not like my uncle, this is my older brother who's like become this whole, yeah, like he went to work, came back home, and like every day it's the
This is
same
not my
thing.
uncle. This
And
is my
it's
brother.
like,
That's so funny.
yeah, like I've actually seen my
Yeah.
brother go from being someone whose social life I envied. Like he used to go out late at night and stuff when I wasn't of the age to be able to do it anyway. So at that point I was just like envious of it. And then when I was finally doing it, it's like, okay, now this guy's like a family guy. But now like a few years after that, it's like, okay, it's not that I specifically want to, but I don't think it's very far for me to also develop some sort of a routine that maybe I already have one. Not even like an unintentional routine of just bad habits and stuff.
Yeah, which is still a routine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I also think he
Yeah.
has like a purpose in life, right? Like he has like a very strong purpose to
Yeah.
just.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once that's figured out, then
It's
like
so easy to like, yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, like I
yeah.
don't think when he's like cleaning his river, he doesn't have that feeling of, why am I doing this right now when I could be doing something else to further my career or something. Like his career and his legacy is already being worked on, so he's more comfortable with committing time to stuff that's maybe not in any way helping that.
Yeah, I feel like if you have a purpose that you really believe in, then you can compromise a lot of luxuries and just dopamine stuff to serve that purpose.
Because you only have to convince yourself, right? Like as long as you convince yourself that I don't need this cigarette,
Yeah.
it's done. You don't have to convince the next person that hey, you
Yeah.
also
He
don't need
didn't
the cigarette.
seem to
Although
have convinced
cigarette,
him.
he did.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
I know.
yeah,
It's a very
yeah,
bad example. I remembered as soon as I said the word, like, oh shit, this guy and cigarettes probably
And,
should
yeah, and in
not.
for context, Miyazaki smokes constantly, like including
Although
indoors and
I feel like
stuff.
he has a cigarette in his mouth that's not lit more than he has a
I
cigarette in
don't
his
think that's
mouth
a
that's
cigarette.
lit.
I
Like,
think that's also like a pencil and stuff. I think he has like, and I feel horrible for saying this, some sort of like oral fixation.
why do you feel horrible, dude? It's just no. That's
Yeah,
just what happens
yeah,
to
yeah, that's
smokers.
true.
It's not. There's
Yeah.
nothing like. I know people make jokes about it being like a homosexual tendency or whatever, but that's not.
I mean, back to my point that I think that guy has a purpose, and the purpose is like he has like very strong values, and he has a very strong purpose, and because of that, he's like able to just like follow through on it because he's like figured out what he wants to do with his life, and that's what he's doing. But like that purpose is derived from his value set and his politics, and probably his experiences growing up. So the next thing we wanted to discuss was his politics, essentially, which are strongly expressed in the documentary and the films he makes. I mean, the obvious big points are like he's very anti-war, he's very anti-nuclear, and he's very like sort of he has a very pacifist stance on military and war and stuff like that. He used to work in a union, like an animation union. Not work in a union, but like he was part of a union. And I just wanted to know your guys' opinions on his politics. Like, do you agree with them? Do you not agree with them? How do you interpret them?
I agree with them because, war is bad. I don't feel like that's a controversial stance.
It is,
But
dude.
I
Go to
think
Twitter.
his
What
heavy,
is
like,
bad
his
is controversial as
Yeah, I
fuck.
mean,
dude, fuck it, on Twitter, dude, on Twitter, everything is controversial. You could be like, gravity is real. That's controversial. I feel like putting shit on, like, taking Twitter with a huge grain of salt, right? But I think it's also very, like, he has a very personal stake in his politics. One, because he was born in 1941, so he was like his childhood was affected like very heavily by World War II, right? And because his dad manufactured airplane parts. So his dad played like a role in the war effort. And I think he is very conflicted by that. And that affected like the Wind Rises, right? Like that's why he made the Wind Rises. And like for context, if for those who haven't seen it, the Wind Rises is about an aeronautical engineer who loves planes and who is just in love with like the mechanics and the design of it, but hates that the creations he makes are being used as like weapons of war and like weapons of mass destruction. And it's just like how do you reconcile the fact that you have like this beautiful piece of machinery that is then being used to like kill so many people? It's interesting to see how he takes like such a heavy stance through his movies. Like, and it's not just the Wind Rises, right? Like a lot of his movies are very anti-war. Like even Howl's Moving Castle is very anti-war. Like it's about Howl trying to avoid being drafted into the military, not out of like cowardice or whatever, but because he is a pacifist.
yeah, but I think a lot of the film, The Wind Rises, is about dealing with the conflict of profiting from war and having profited from war. Like even the like the protagonist of the film, he ends up making the designing the planes that end up serving in end up being used in the war by Japan. So like his dream was to
Yeah.
make airplanes, and he ended up making warplanes, and he's dealing with that fact. And he all of the success that came to that guy is because he made warplanes. So I think a lot of his films deal with that conflict
Yeah.
particularly. Like like his thoughts on machines is also around that fact that oh, the idea is that you want to make some craft stuff, but like the world wants to use your craft for war, for destruction of the climate, for whatever, like capitalism, etc., etc.
Yeah, I mean, you can use a machine to create something that would bring joy to people, or you can use the machine
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
bring fear to people, and it's more profitable to bring fear than to bring
It's not
joy.
even a question of profit, it's a question of survival. Like,
Yeah.
how do you just make stuff that brings
Yeah.
people joy and also survive and make enough money to eat? You know, that in itself is already very difficult. And even if you make something, then the other people can like use your text to use that as.
Yeah, exactly. Even if you create something that creates joy, if you've made a machine that is capable of creating something very powerful, someone else could just use it to create something that can inflict pain instead of joy.
Precisely. Like, for example, the people who invented the camera probably never thought that the camera would be used for war propaganda. But it was eventually, right? Like, that wasn't the intention of the tool. So, in that sense, he has this suspicion of machines, and every time, which kind of informs both his politics but also his work process. He doesn't use machines. There's this famous clip of
Mhm. Yeah.
him losing it when he sees AI work for the first time, and he's like, "Oh, humanity's doomed," and
Yeah, like
everything.
the
It's
fact that
quite
he's still,
funny, actually.
yeah.
I mean, it's very understandable why he would be anti-nuclear. Like Nat said, he was born in 1941, so he was he was probably in first grade when. I mean, so when I was in first grade, I was going to give my exam for getting the first like yellow belt in karate. And at that point, he was hearing about America having dropped two atom bombs on his country. So yeah, like I mean that definitely like he's grown up knowing that, like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
that knowledge has been with him since all of his like formative years, like before he even became a teenager. He's known this, that America did this to my country.
And I mean, he's also against like Japanese rearmament and stuff. Like, it's not even, I think I really respect his pacifism because he's not like death to America or whatever, right? Like he is very like,
That to America is not pacifism, dude.
yeah, no, that's my point, right? Like he's not like his whole thing of, oh, America's like bombed
Oh yeah, he doesn't
Japan and
want
stuff. Yeah.
revenge. Like
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
saying that
that's the
he's
thing.
not a death to America kind of guy.
Yeah. He like his whole thing
But
is,
that's also probably like when you I feel like when you hear about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the first question
mhm.
is, okay, why? Because it was such a big step. Like no one else had
Yeah.
used that weapon in war before. So
Yeah.
why did America feel the need to go there? And one of the I don't know if it's really like the top reason or something, but like anytime I've tried to ask like an American or someone who wants to justify that, the first response is Pearl Harbor.
Pearl
So
Harbor.
I think, yeah, like Miyazaki understands that if you start this back and forth, then like it never ends, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they
Like
might do
violence begets
something and then they
violence.
might, and also it's never going to be like, okay, you drop two atom bombs, I'm going to go and kill one person. It's always going to have to be something bigger than the last one, or like something that makes a big impact. So it's, and then one incident radicalizes a new
Exactly.
generation, right? Like if he was to get radicalized by the Hiroshima Nagasaki thing, then he goes and does something else, and then that will radicalize the next generation to do something to his country. So I think pacifism is the way out of the loop. Like in his way of thinking, he's probably thinking if we just don't retaliate, there won't be like a part two at least, which is like really sad knowing that the next nuclear incident in his life was something that wasn't like an attack. It was just
The plant
it was
exploding.
an
Yeah.
incident. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it was like a
yeah.
natural
Yeah. I
disaster.
mean, it is not ironic actually, because like a lot of his politics is about climate change as well. And there is a certain attitude that he has that machines are eating up the world, and we are all kind of both too arrogant and distracted. And that there's like a lot of the themes in his films are like, oh, nature has some level of wisdom that's very complex, and the machines are actually very simple. And we think the machines are very smart, but in fact, the
Mhm.
machines are kind of simple, and nature is actually more complex and wise and sustainable and etc. etc. But the simple shit is just eating up the complexity, and that's kind of the savagery of the machinery. A lot of times, that's the idea that comes off of his films. The nuclear, the war, the climate change are all connected in the fact of like human arrogance, essentially. And the leaders are arrogant and the public is ignorant. Like that's very common theme in all of his works, I think. I mostly agree with almost most of his politics, apart from the fact that he is like anti machines, and I think machines are just we can just build better machines.
I actually like. I don't know. I'm a little bit on his side. Like I understand where he's coming from at least, because if you're that old, you've actually seen. No, like literally imagine there were some things like right now, maybe an hour ago when we were discussing what's the temperature in Pune, what's the temperature in Ahmedabad. We just looked it up, like we either you checked it on your phone like an app, or I Googled it. I don't have an app for that. For him, at some age, when he wanted to know the weather, he probably had to tune into the news to see some man or a woman tell him the weather, or those telephone services where like in his life has seen some things where he had to rely on other humans for it, and now it's all being done by machines. And so like I think they have a very real fear of machines are going to replace us, like not just us in the workforce, like just replace us on earth. I think that's a very valid fear, like because I grew up like if there was something wrong with a website I'm using and you go to the customer like just help and support, it would be annoying because you had to talk to someone and figure it out, but it would be helpful. And now
Yeah.
when you do that, it just says, "Hi, I am the AI bot," and like, fuck, dude, like I no, dude. Can I just talk to someone? It feels so weird. Like for years, I dreaded talking to people to get help, and now when I'm greeted by an AI chatbot, it's like, no, I just wish I
Yeah,
could
fucking
talk to
connect me to
someone.
a person. Yeah. Yeah.
I think there's
Yeah.
like a revolt against like the determinism of machines where everything is black or white and just like it just goes and chomps and
Yeah, because the AI bot is always like, "Oh, is this your problem? Yeah, this is my problem. Oh, here is a thing on our forum that is going to like, bro, I read that thing already. That's why I'm here because that didn't help me."
yeah. I mean, I remember this anecdote. There's this guy called Rory Sutherland. He's like he used to run Ogilvy advertising in UK. He was talking about this where like they replaced a lot of the people in UK rail services with kiosk machines and stuff, right? And they came to
Hmm.
consult with Ogilvy about why like there's like a this has actually kind of reduced ridership. And he talked about this that yeah, like maybe the kiosks will tell you the most efficient way to go from one place to the other, but turns out if you just take like 5 more minutes, there's a different route that is actually better because it'll be like less people and the trains are nicer and the view is nicer, and it'll only take like 10 minutes, and to a 70-year-old person that 10 minutes really does not matter. He's not in a hurry to go anywhere.
And that's the kind of suggestion that a human would make, right? Like looking at you, that you are a old person who is not pressed on time. And they'd probably ask you like, "Hey, are you okay with a 10-minute delay? But the ride is much better." Yeah, definitely a disconnect there in recommending you or helping you out because they don't fully understand what your problem is.
Yeah, and also like old people wouldn't want to faff about with a machine. They would just talk to a person that will tell them what to do. And like the advice the person will give will be more in the interest of the customer compared to the advice the machine will give, which will be more in the interest of the
It'll be way more personality.
yeah. Uh,
Oh, that also,
Yeah, like it'll be
obviously.
more in the interest of the corporation, whatever the corporation is, compared to like the person, because the person will have empathy. Like there's like this sense of, I don't know, subjectivity of humans that is replaced by the objectivity of machines that is very core to like a lot of his films, I think.
I mean, Donald Trump himself said it. It's all computer in here. Dude, I saw that clip. It fucking made me laugh so much. Dude, he was so shocked, man. Like, did you not know what a Tesla was
Yeah.
before this? Like, did you just agree to do this?
Dude, it's even better. I think he says
Bro, you should clip
everything
that
is
out.
computer is what he said.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's enough about the politics. I think we are mostly in agreement with his stance on, I mean, anti-war, everybody is, I guess. I
Yeah.
don't know about the machine thing, honestly. I still think there is hope there that I don't think he sees. He also, like, kind of just looks very upset about the state of the world all the time.
Bro, he is so bleak. It like the difference between his visuals and the way he views life is like polar opposites, bro.
I feel like because he's been doing this for a while, right? Like what you said about educating the next generation to come, I feel like he's already gone through at least one or two generations. So for
Yeah,
him
yeah,
in
yeah.
2020 to be like, when I made this movie in 2000, I was hoping that in 2 decades, the world would be a little bit like this. And it's actually gone in the other, like, he must have, like, his
Yeah, 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 that's
idealism
true.
has not paid off a little. Like, I feel like not paid off is like one thing, but it's probably gone in the other direction. And that's why he's like pessimistic.
But I'm really glad his pessimism, like he doesn't reflect his pessimism in his movies. Like I wouldn't call any of his movies pessimistic at all, which is like very impressive that he's still able to inject a lot of hope and a lot of hope into his movies because they're also like for kids, right?
I think he's dealing with his own pessimism
Yeah.
through making hopeful stuff. All right. Come, let's wrap this up. Last question. How did this documentary change your perspective? We'll start with Natalia.
This documentary really opened my eyes to the amount of coordination that goes into like hand drawn animation. And I I also like it also really changed my perspective on like what a unifying force Miyazaki is into like his movies. And as like especially with animation tends to be such a collaborative effort that like even like for this, even though it is a collaborative effort, it's everyone uniting behind one specific his vision. And I think that was, I didn't realize how impressive that really is. And I think this documentary really like emphasized that for me at least.
Soham, what about you?
What I got from this documentary was we also tend to have like a little bit of idealism in terms of, like maybe I'll find like a place to work at where it's good for me as well. Like I get flexibility for my other stuff and all that, and also doing some sort of work that I can be proud of, that this is what I've devoted all my time to. The documentary sort of shines some light on people who've made that commitment, right? Like they've made that commitment to working for Miyazaki. And I don't know if it really changed my perspective. I think I always knew that it's a bit of a slippery slope in that sense. But I think we mentioned that one woman who looked like she was really burnt out. For that one woman, there were maybe 3 or 4 other people who they would just have a fucking smile on their face as soon as Miyazaki was around them. Like you could tell that for them, even though they were probably being worked to the bone, there was a lot of like personal satisfaction in the fact that, I am here, I am contributing. I think that was a little reassuring. I don't know if it changed my perspective, but it's a little reassuring that even though it might be hard, it's very rewarding as well.
Yeah, I think my own perspective is very similar to what you said, where I just saw like the guy dedicated his life to a singular purpose, and the purpose paid off. And the shift in my perspective was that maybe like you don't want to just do shit for yourself, but like if you dedicate your life to a purpose, it can be very clarifying. All his decisions just got made because like, okay, my goal is to make good films, and then everything solves itself around it, right? Like every decision sort of becomes a deterministic thing around that one singular purpose, more or less. So I think it was more inspirational in how like you can have a thing you want to do, and then that thing can make a lot of your life very clear. All right, that's it. Thank you for listening to us. You can write to us at escapeintorealitypodcast@gmail.com. See you next time. Bye bye.